All right, hello everybody. How's it going? What's up? Welcome to Comic Book Radio. This is an esoteric supernatural Saturday. This is episode 223. My guest tonight is Michelle Freed. We're going to be talking about remote viewing and also her experiences producing for Art Bell and Jimmy Church. This is going to be an interesting show. One foretold for the ages. Hope you guys are doing good out there. Before I bring on Michelle, two things. On alternativecomics.com, we've got a pre-order campaign running right now. It's a very small one. It's just for some new hats that we got into production. One of them out of the three reached its production goal on the sales total. So that one's going to get made. The other two are very, very close. One of them is 7 away. The other one is 8 away. Go to alternativecomics.com/pre-order. They're nice. They're embroidered hats. Really, really good stuff. We have not had these kinds of hats available on the site for about 3 or so years. A lot of people have been requesting these, so go and check them out. We're taking pre-orders up until August 1st. The second thing, let's say hello to those of you in the chat. Let's see who we have here today. We got William. What's up, William? Thank you for being here tonight. Comics for Life is here too. What's up, Comics for Life? How's it going? Shrek PMC is here too. How's it going, Shrek? Hope you're having a good Saturday night. We got Rachel Brinkley here too. What's up, Rachel? Cigar Gangster, how's it going, Cigar Gangster? Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for being here. Cole King in the house as well. What's up? Good to see you as well. Says can't chat a lot tonight, but I'll stick around as long as I can. Well, I appreciate you being here, Cole, and everybody else as well. Thank you guys so much for being here. So without further ado, let's bring her on. Michelle Freed is a remote viewer, and I am so looking forward to talking to her tonight. Michelle, what's up?
Hello. Hi, it's so good to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this because this is a very interesting topic. And on top of that, you've got a lot of other things that you've accomplished and achieved that are quite interesting. So I'm really fascinated by all of this. But before we dive into that, I want to know how exactly did you get involved with all this kind of stuff? Because this is a very, some would say, unusual path to go down in life.
Yeah, I think it's, what they say, like the friends you keep. I was just a normal person, but all my friends were wacky. I think one of my very good friends asked me, she had written 3 books on psychic development, and we went to high school together, and she asked me to take her class. And I was like, I don't know, aren't only special people, that are psychic can take your class? She's like, no, everybody's psychic. And I'm like, really? So I took her class, and I just got to a point where I couldn't explain anything anymore. Like, I was getting information that there's no way I could have known. And it really brought me to this point now where I feel very strongly that it's really hard to describe these things to people because they have to experience it themselves. And that's really what happened to me, is like, I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical about it. And I had to have the experience of it to understand it. So
now, when you say you were getting things coming to you that there was no way you could have known, what are some examples of that?
Well, it was an online class. It was it was like over 10 years ago. So I don't even think we had Zoom. I'm trying to think we were on the phone. So it was some kind of conference call.
Like Skype or something.
Something like that, right. And so we didn't see anybody. We were just on the phone, and we didn't really know who anybody was. And so we would she would teach us something and then we would practice it. And I would get information about some of the other people because we would read each other, that there's no way I could have known. So there was one guy, and I kept getting like these flashes of, the boxed wine. Not to be snobby, but I don't really drink wine from a box, but they sell wine in a box. And I had this image that flashed in my head, that it was a wine in a box. I'll drink coffee in a box, but not wine in a box. But
I'll drink juice in a box.
yeah, juice in a juice box. Yeah. But wine for me, like, it has to be a bottle, or, because it just makes sense. It's part of the whole vision of it. And then I just started getting this like knowing, and I couldn't understand how I knew. And I'm like, and I was kind of filtering what I was saying. But I did get the impression that the guy was an alcoholic, but I didn't want to say anything. Like, so I just said, oh, maybe you should not drink as much as you've been drinking, kind of skirting around it. And then my friend called me afterwards. She's like, Michelle, you did so good. She goes, he's an alcoholic. And I'm like, oh, like, how would I ever know that? So things like that over and over and over would happen. And, it just gets to a point where you can't explain it anymore. You just give up. You're like, all right, fine. I just have to accept that something is going on here.
So you're
And
getting like an impression of something, you're getting like imagery, that kind of a thing.
yeah, in the psychic, like when I was, yeah, we were getting like a flash, like almost like somebody like flashes a picture in your mind, and then you're kind of unpacking that. We did, I think she was teaching us something called rose readings. So you use a rose as a metaphor, and then the rose kind of opens up into a kind of story, and then you just kind of, there's a lot of metaphors and symbolism, and then you just kind of put it together. And yeah, that's pretty much how that happened. And so I see myself as a skeptical believer. That's a nice way. And I always lean towards the science of everything. So I just, I want to know more, like, evidence and proof. So
Well, yeah, it's funny you bring that up because there is a lot of, I mean, for those that don't know, there's a lot of remote viewing experiments, exercises, etc., that have gone on within the government. I mean, I think a bunch of that stuff got declassified in the 90s, but
yes.
it was big in World War II and in the Cold War especially. That was huge. They were trying to spy on each other to learn secrets.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And then just moving up till now, I have about 3 or 4 papers that we did some science. We've done some experiments and they've been published. So we wrote them up because now our mission is to get remote viewing more mainstreamed, and we want to really get the attention of scientists and other people in the world to be able to use this as a tool and to help out with investigations of whatever. And so on my website there is a page under remote viewing if anybody wants to read scientific papers, which can be boring. Those studies are on there, and in one of them, which was pretty cool because we use dreams to predict a future outcome of a sporting event. And so what we would do is, our job was to remote view a photo that would be shown to us at the end of the game. And so we had to kind of project our consciousness into the future and report the photo that they're going to show us. And then we do a session, we email it, and the manager will make a prediction, and then we can place bets on we have all these apps now, so we place bets on the games. So we had a 62% hit rate. So we made money. And we know that scientists pay attention to that. They pay attention to, oh, they made money. Money, interesting. So we're definitely on that track. So it's pretty cool.
That's interesting too, because there's the whole technique of visualization in sports. That's a huge thing, where it's like, you got to visualize winning, you got to visualize, shooting uh, the goal or hitting the home run or whatever situation you're in, and visualize yourself in it, and achieving the result that you want to achieve. I almost wonder, is there some kind of remote viewing consciousness sort of experiment undergoing at that point, that these athletes are unlocking or tapping into, that maybe they're not even aware of?
Well, to me, like all this stuff is so connected. But the first thing I want to bring up a really interesting point, that we're not remote viewing the teams, because that can psych us out. The way that remote viewing works, which we take a deeper dive into it, but the way it works is, we actually don't remote view the actual teams or anything about it. And most of the time, we don't even know what teams are playing. Our job is, as a viewer, our intention is to remote view a photo. And so the back setting up this project is assigning a photo for both teams. That way, like, people can't have, like, you could be, it gets rid of any biases. So, like, for me, I'm in Chicago, so if it was the Cubs, I'd want the Cubs to win. So what we do is, say the game is the Cubs and the Cardinals, and we take two totally opposite photos. So one would be like the water or the beach or something like that, and then the other would be like the desert. And so if people come up with a session that's talking about, sand and dry and whatever, and that's assigned to the Cubs, if you have 5 viewers and 4 of them are leaning towards the Cubs, then we make the prediction that, and then we'll do an over under kind of bet. So we would lean towards the Cubs, place the bet on the Cubs, and then to finish the feedback loop, we were talking about a microphone loop, which was a sound loop. This is a psychic, or it's like quantum entanglement. So what we're doing is we are peeking into the future and sending all the information back into the past. So when we're doing our session, it's kind of a complete circle. So then we get the photo, and then we have to pay a lot of attention to that photo, so that we make that signal stronger for remote viewing in the first place. What?
I want to
What?
That's a lot. That's a lot to take, and I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So, so in this specific instance with this experiment, um, how did you know what was this assigned to lean on something, or say that was this for this outcome or that outcome or whatever it might be? Like, how did that specifically go down?
So I'll backtrack for a second. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of remote viewing. There's a kind of remote viewing that's a tool to gather intel. So there's one version of remote viewing where we're trying to collect data to help find, we do it in missing people, true crime, where's an alien, is Bigfoot real? And those are sessions that you take a big long class for. That's what I teach. It takes about an hour to do that session. It's a big, huge project. Okay. What I'm talking about now, and the reason I'm talking about it, is because it's very easy to use it for science, because it's a binary. It's usually, we use a binary target. So something going up or down. So we will use it for the stock market, cryptocurrency, sporting events, anything that you have, up or down, right or left, over, under, anything like that. And so how the project is set up is that we have an intention, we have a target number. And in all cases of remote viewing, none of the viewers ever know what the target is. That's what makes it very science, because they're blind to the target. Because if they know what the target is, they can lean in a different direction and kind of get a lot of preconceived ideas about it. So we want to keep everyone clean and blind. So so the same like this is called associative remote viewing, ARV. And this is set up where you have a project manager and you have viewers, and they their intention is to sketch and describe the photo that you will be shown after the game. That's all, that's your instructions. And then you sit down with you're at a desk, you do what we call a cool down, which we want to get to a point of kind of nothing. You want to kind of get rid of everything, start from kind of a clean slate, I would say. And then you just kind of put your attention, and it's like, everyone has a different way of doing it. You just kind of say, okay, what I do is I imagine opening up my email and receiving the photo. And then I just start kind of writing whatever comes to me. The really important thing in both kinds of remote viewing is that you describe and you don't name anything that comes to you. So, so you would, if you perceive something, you're going to start with a low level, like I'm getting the color, I'm perceiving the color green or red. I'm feeling the motion, I'm feeling this back and forward motion. So you're kind of opening yourself like an antenna, and you're engaging all your senses. And you ask yourself, what do I feel? What do I taste? What do I smell? What do I hear? And all that is associated with the photo. So that's for that kind. And it's the same. We do kind of the same process, but it's in more depth when we're doing some of these big cases. And we're just, kind of giving ourselves directions of, how to get more information. Does that help?
Kind of, yeah. Would it be fair to say that you're kind of almost in a hypnotic state, like a self-induced trance?
Yeah, you pretty much are. I'm also I am a hypnotherapist, and so how I define hypnosis, because it's a normal state that we're in, is focused attention. That's the easiest way to describe being in hypnotized. So if you're focused attention driving and you miss your stop, it's because you were hypnotized by the road. Or if you're watching, us on YouTube or wherever, and you didn't realize that somebody left the room behind you, we're hypnotizing you. So it's really, yeah, Zoom camera, right? So we're definitely, it's focused attention. And then what comes in for the therapy part is that's where you put in suggestions to help people get rid of a habit they want to get, to quit smoking, or have more confidence, or whatever they want to do. So it's kind of the same thing in a way. You're putting yourself in that, I guess, zen, so that you're kind of engaging in your senses, because that's remote viewing is all about that. It's getting information from everything besides seeing it with your eyes. You can see with your mind's eye, but that's not always reliable information either.
Now, what have been some of your most interesting and compelling experiences? Ones that kind of freaked you out?
They all, like, whenever they hit, they all freak me out. Um, in a good way though. It's not like bad. Um, let's see. So I know, like, you guys like this, cryptids are your thing. So, had a practice session with somebody, and we were on Skype or Zoom or one of those things, and he was monitoring me, because sometimes when you're remote viewing, you'll have a monitor, and sometimes you do it by yourself. And so this particular time, he was monitoring me, and he gave me a target number. And again, I have no clue what the target is. And so I started to perceive, I think the first thing that I sensed, and this is a sense, I sensed female energy. And I was just getting something like a female subject. And then as I kept, kind of leaning into that female, I wanted to get more information. Describe this. I keep saying describe. So then I'm like, big, like, to a point where I actually wanted to change my mind and say it was a male, because I was like, no, females are not this big. I just felt like this subject was huge, but something in me kept saying, no, it's a female. And I was kind of having this fight within me, trying to figure out, is it male or female? And so he's just like, okay, get up, out of your seat. We like to get your butts out of the seats and blend with the subject and describe, touch yourself. And so I was describing, and I remember like going like this with my arm, and I felt like my hand would go really far, extending over my arm, and I felt it really hairy. And I was just describing some, I don't know what it was, just some humongous female with a lot of hair. And so it just kept going on and on and on, and I was getting just more information. I know you're getting it, right? And I think at a certain point I got it too, because I'm like, is this Bigfoot? I think that's what I said. But what's really cool is I was remote viewing. So the secret question that I didn't know was, is the Patterson-Gimlin footage a hoax? That was the secret question. That's what I was answering. And the answer is, in my opinion, no. Because for the mere fact that I couldn't switch my mind to a male, and everybody talks about that they believe that this was a female. And the fact that I was digging my heels in, because normally I would have changed my mind, because everything was pointing towards male. And so that convinced me that it is. And then also I met Bob Gimlin, and no, there's no way he would have hoaxed. He's just a really real person, and he just feels very genuine. I just can't imagine someone like that doing a hoax like that. So so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you weren't aware that you were supposed to be viewing Bigfoot?
No.
What did they tell you?
Just, here's your target number, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Do your thing. That's all we know.
That's interesting.
That's
so with that information alone, and then things start coming through.
Yes.
Wow.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. It is. I know. That's why I started the whole conversation about, you have to experience it.
Yeah,
There's just not a good way to, I can show you so much evidence, and the military can show you so much evidence, but you have to do it. I should come back one day, and we can do, with all your people, a remote viewing experiment, and then everyone that's listening can actually do it. We could do that.
Now, what do you say to people who are like, maybe you just have an overactive imagination? What do you say to a comment like that?
Well, I mean, I would say you have to experience it. I don't feel like I need to be defensive about it. And if they're not ready for it, that's fine. But I scrutinize this. I did. I'm not somebody that just jumps onto things. So, just through a lot of research, a lot of doing it, I've done thousands of sessions.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that because of my background in hypnosis and understanding how our mind works, I understand because, um, a lot of people will say, well, if you're psychic, then why aren't you a millionaire? And I actually figured out an answer to that. And actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Joe McMoneagle. He was one of the famous remote viewers from the military, one of the best ones in the world. And he said to me, Michelle, if you want to be a world class remote viewer, you have to give up what it is to be human. And I was like, what? It's okay. I've been working so hard to be human. What are you saying here? and and one day it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I know what he means. So what he means is that we have our left brain, and the left brain is responsible for analyzing, drawing conclusions, finding patterns in the world, and just really keeping us. I mean, we were using it when we were primitive. It was helping for hunting and gathering and all that stuff. So the left brain is very meticulous, and it serves its purpose. But in this world, we are engaged in our right brain. The right brain is comes from a perspective of doesn't understand language. It operates from emotions and symbolism and things like that. It's like feelings and senses and all that stuff. So what's happening whenever you're psychic or whenever you're remote viewing or doing anything like this, whatever word you want to use, intuitive, your gut, whatever the word is, you're fighting with the left brain trying to make sense. And a really good example is, and I use this all the time, a lot of remote viewers do, it's like if I perceive something that's red, shiny, and round, everyone's going to be like a computer. Do, 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 do. And then they're, oh, an apple, right? Because that makes sense. Red, shiny, round apple. But if you're doing a true crime case and you're looking for a missing person, unless they're near a fruit basket, then that apple's not going to help you, because it could be a truck. It could be very important that something red, shiny, and round is near this missing person, and you could be missing that. And so that is why we are not quite there yet, because we have to fight the left brain's tendencies, and we need that. We absolutely need our left brain. So I use some techniques that I teach in my class to help people with dealing with the left brain and the right brain. And one day, I think over time, when we get better and better at this and we have more people using these skills, I think we're going to break the ceiling with it, and we're going to be able to be more accurate and reliable in our information. And so what I say to people about being millionaires, number one, I'll tell you, there are people that have made money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars they've made using that ARV method. So people are making money, but it's not quite reliable yet. And we need more people working on it. And it's a lot of practice, like a martial art. And yeah.
Now, are you aware of the Institute of Heart Math?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that have a connection at all with this? Just where that they say that there's neural receptors in the heart, and the heart has such a stronger EMF than the brain?
Yeah, I think that. So what I would say to that is all our senses. I think that when you're talking about the brain, there are several parts of the brain. So depend like if depending, I'm not quite sure how I would compare, like if they're comparing the brain as a whole versus the subconscious part of the brain versus the left brain, the consciousness of it versus the heart. I think the numbers, like if you're going with the subconscious or unconscious, versus the heart, I think their numbers will, or their idea will be different. But you have this element of the left brain in there that I kind of feel like it pulls everything down. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's like, and again, like, because we need it. But if we can find a way as humans to be able to turn it on and off, or, and that's actually one of my techniques, is we imagine a gauge and we turn down the left brain and turn up the right brain. And how the heart's connected is we use the heart connected to the subconscious to remote view, because that's where our senses come in. We're feeling, and the subconscious and the heart are very much connected. And so that's what we're engaging. We want to know, what do things feel like? Like if I get to a location, in my mind, I project my consciousness to a location and describe, it's like, what do I sense? Think about when you walk through one room into another room, it feels different. Have you ever
Oh
noticed?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that something, so if you're projecting your consciousness to a location, already you're going to start feeling something. You're going to kind of have a sense. Am I inside? Am I outside?
Yeah.
Am I somewhere where, like, am I in a UFO? Am I out of a UFO? Like, am I in space? Am I in the water? Am I in the sky? You're gonna know. And that's what we use to do these sessions. And it's pretty cool, the data that we come up with, especially keeping in mind that nobody knows the target.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with all this too because I've had experiences, and my wife actually has had a lot of experiences like this, where it's stuff that, like, she gets images, she gets feelings, she gets certain things, and then she looks it up because we're maybe about half a mile or so away from a funeral home,
Mm,
and she'll start getting certain images and certain feelings about something or whatever, and she'll look it up, and she'll discover that they're having a wake for this person who lived this kind of life or died this way, and she's getting these impressions the whole time. When we were apartment hunting years ago, there was an apartment in Salem, Massachusetts that I was like, oh, this is a good price, we should go take a look at it. And Salem's already weird enough as it is, but this area, it seemed like, okay, we were kind of near that area, and we passed by it, and she didn't want to go in. She was like, this is a really weird place. And just seeing it, just being around it and seeing it, she starts to feel like, she can't really breathe well, like she's getting shortness of breath, all that stuff. Like she's, a very, very ominous, bad feeling. Later on that night, she goes and looks up that spot, that apartment building, and we find out that one of the victims of the Boston Strangler died there.
oh my God.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot of little weird things like that. And there was another apartment we were looking at. It was a home, and we both got the same impression of the room. There was one specific room, we walk into it, and it had a very different feel, very sad, very somber feel. Like someone was here, older, hooked up to a breathing apparatus, life support machines and whatnot, in a hospital bed. We both had the same imagery going through our mind. We didn't say anything until after we left, but we got a really weird feeling in the room compared to the rest of the house. And you go on and find that, yeah, there was a person that's why that house was up on sales, that this person ended up dying. So it's one of these just weird things like that. But yeah, I totally know what you mean with, like, the feeling of an area, a feeling of a room. Hell, I mean, I used to live in New York, and now I'm in New Hampshire. I've been in New Hampshire for a while, and the feeling is totally different, even the state to state.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I'll feel it, even just going on the bridge. Like if I go to visit family and I get on the Whitestone Bridge, and I feel the whole energy shift. It is a weird, weird feeling, and I'm like, immediately that happens, I cross that threshold of that water, and I want to get the hell out of there.
Right. Yeah. Can you imagine if you had a more structured project, how good you guys would be able to do. Like if you're helping on true crime cases and just getting intel for things, and can you, you know, because I mean, one of the reasons and one of my missions with my classes is to put together a team, because I can't tell you how many emails I get all the time, you know, and a lot of that, like if they're for kids, I'm not going to charge or anything, and missing persons, we don't really charge. But cold cases and, oh, I mean, everything from cold cases to I lost my ring, to my missing pet, to um, a professor called us up from a university who studies antiquities, and in his research, he has a gap, and he doesn't. He wanted us. He hired us to find out some information that was in his a gap in his research, and he took our information and brought it to like all the other professors, and he was able. I don't think he told them that he used remote viewing, but we're used to that. But it still helped him, you know, and they were all like, "Whoa, we didn't even think of that." And you know, we worked on a project with NASA, with climate change and all that stuff. So I get calls all the time, and I need a really good team so that we can help all these people and really make this go mainstream. And you know, nobody's making a ton of money on this, but Mama needs a new pair of shoes money is just okay with me, for sure. I'm okay with that, but it feels productive. Like we're using a skill and we're helping people, and also it helps us. Like I don't say that enough. It's like one of the sessions that we'll do is I will, of course, again, nobody knows what the target is, but one of their practice sessions is go to a past life and take, you know, bring back a skill from that life that makes you a better remote viewer, you know, and you can use that for anything. um you know, like when you were moving, you could have remote viewed where you're going to live, you know, where is the best place for you to live. People that have a job offer and they don't know if they should take that job or stay where they are, you can remote view that, and on and on and on. So it's life changing, you know, and just also the confidence that you get to trust yourself. Like there are so many times that I get these little gut feelings, intuition, and I just ignore them. But you start getting more confidence that to trust yourself, and really, 9 out of 10 times you're right. So this,
Yeah, I think that's something that we are, as a society, at least from my observation, I think we're slowly being told to not trust your instincts, to not trust your gut, to not trust, you know, oh, that's just a feeling you're getting. And, you know, like you talked about the left brain, right brain, like you're supposed to like analyze things. And no, no, no. Well, you know, all these things, they don't really make much sense. You're going on a feeling, you're going on whatever. Why don't you analyze it? And if you analyze it, it makes sense to do that thing. That even though there's a very strong feeling within that tells you, I don't think I should do that. That's not good. This isn't going to
yeah,
have a good outcome, or whatever, or the opposite, that this is going to be a really good thing. And it's strange to me that I see that over and over again, that that kind of thing is maybe frowned upon or discouraged or whatever, to not necessarily be more instinctual.
it messes us up. It messes us up. And you know, one of the things that I taught my kids when they were very little, uh, you know, stranger danger. Do you have little
Yeah.
kids, right? So
No,
and
no,
they're
but yeah, yeah, I know exactly what, yeah, I mean,
I
hell, I
tell
heard
them
that my
from
whole life.
such a young age to trust if you have a bad vibe about somebody, listen to it. You know, from really a young age, you can start training them to start trusting their gut, you know, or whatever word, you know, a lot of people don't like psychic, so use gut, you know, use intuition, whatever. But I think that we do need to make big changes like that to start, you know, paying attention to what we feel, because you know in the subconscious is more accurate than the left brain. So when you're analyzing something, there's too much of your own what's the word? Like it's subjective. So, so you could be wrong with something. We have a term called an AOL, analytical overlay, and that is when we draw a conclusion that something is something. And I've taken that part in remote viewing and brought it into my everyday life, and I turned AOL into a verb. Because if I assume something that somebody meant something that they said to me, I'll say to them, "Oh, Michelle, you're AOLing. Check it out. I have a different feeling. If you see somebody and you make an assumption about what they're talking about, or people that get paranoid or anything like that, it's really using your left brain." And it's not accurate. But if you listen to your gut, it's going to tell you, oh, it's fine. Like everything's fine. So I think, I think we need to definitely be doing more of that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We got a couple questions here in the chat. I wonder if you mind answering them. Feel free.
Sure.
This is a little bit, maybe a little bit out there. I don't know.
Okay.
Rachel asks, I wonder if Michelle has tried any psychedelics, and if so, have they heightened her abilities?
Oh my gosh. Hi, Rachel. No, but we are not psychedelics, but we might get to that. I know the Army did, I think they used LSD in
Yeah.
some of their research. And we are going to do a study in with cannabis. That's one of our next experiments that are coming up is using cannabis. And so my opinion is, or have you ever heard of Monroe Institute? Are
Yeah.
you okay? So I was there for the Gateway program,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was with a friend. A lot of the remote viewers back in the 70s went for training at Monroe to just kind of learn how to cool down and kind of get to that kind of Zen place or whatever and whatever. And so I went with a friend and I asked a question and I said, I wonder if when you're remote viewing, if you're actually leaving your body or are you grounded? Like, are we out of our body or are we in our body? And I was just really curious about like what's going on because that's me. I'm always curious asking questions. So there was a lady there that was a muscle tester and she had us lay down on the floor and she did muscle testing on us before we remote viewed something. So she's like, "Oh, you guys are definitely out of your body." Okay. All right. So then we go and we do a session. And then she, at the end of the session, she tests us again and she's like, "You're grounded." And so what we learned from that is that remote viewing actually makes you grounded. So I was shocked because I thought for sure we would be out of our body. But the thing is that taking these drugs, and we'll see what happens with cannabis. I think that what happens is you really do need to be focused and grounded when you're remote viewing. So when you're taking psychedelics and things like that, it might take you a little further away from your intention of what you're supposed to be doing there. So that's, I mean, we need some science to back that up, but I just have a feeling that psychedelics and cannabis are not going to be helpful. Um, uh, but they might. I mean, I think they'll help in other things, like just not remote viewing.
Now, what about drugs that kind of that would have DMT and things like that that would really activate?
Yeah, I think they would take you away from what remote viewing is. Well, the kind
So
that
that
we
would
do
provide a
controlled
different
remote.
experience.
Yeah, I think that, I have something called a Pandora star. It's a flickering light therapy, and I use it with hypnosis. And a lot of people that go under this light feel like they're on a mushroom trip. And I use it not for remote viewing, but I use it in hypnosis. And it's kind of get them to a place where they can kind of uh, relax that left brain and open up the right brain on the way to some kind of designated intention that we have. Like maybe they want to go see a loved one that has passed on, or maybe they need insights about something. But the way that what we do in remote viewing, what we call controlled remote viewing, I don't think those things would work really well. But I guess, it's worth a try. I mean, I'm not against it.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I've never done anything other than sip some alcohol.
Yeah. Well,
I've just never had the inclination.
I know I have to confess that I don't like to advertise it because now I have to be ashamed of it because my kids all surpass me. But I only smoked or an edible when I like not that long ago, a couple years ago, because all my fancy friends were like doing it, and I had peer pressure at my age, and after all these years, I was able to no. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So, and now, like, I don't know, it was just a weird experience, but yeah, I'm not really into it, but um, I don't know. Like, I'm not against it either, but
Yeah,
I
I'm
have
fascinated
fear.
by it. I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of accounts of people who have done kind of like mind altering, altered states of consciousness kinds of drugs and whatnot, and it sounds interesting. For me, I've had like lucid dreaming experiences my whole life of stuff that like I've said it before on this show. So everybody, if you've already heard this story 10 times, I apologize. But when I was a kid, I used to be able to do, we could all fly in our dreams, and a lot of people fly in their dreams when they're a kid. But mine was particularly interesting because I flew around my neighborhood, and I did this a bunch of times, and I would always be envious. I was maybe like 8 or 9. I'd be envious of the house that was not directly across, but was in the back of the house that was across the street, and they had a nice pool and a nice backyard. We had a very crappy backyard, and I'd always like flying over there and looking at it and like going, wow, you look at all the grass and the pool and this and that and whatever. And I'd be flying pretty high up. I'd say maybe 100, 150 feet, because there was a huge, huge tree across the street that was really tall, and I could go above that. And I'd fly around and whatever else, right? So I'm just thinking, a dream is just a dream. And then when Google Earth and stuff comes out, the ultimate little spy on the neighborhood, uh, I thought, maybe I'll look up and see. Like, is there a pool there? Because there's no way I could have seen ever.
Right, right,
I
right.
couldn't see into it. And
Yeah.
I look and I go back to my old neighborhood and I check that house, and there was the
That's
backyard looked just
cool.
like my dream. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's freaky.
That is
So,
really
a-
cool.
and I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like you said before. I don't know how else to explain it. Someone could be like, "Oh, Pete, you're just making something up. You're just saying something, whatever." But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. I did this kind of flying dream thing multiple times when I was a kid. It's I don't
Yeah,
know
I'm
how to
kind of
explain it.
I'm kind of jealous of you in a way because I cannot spontaneously do that. I've been working on it forever, and for a whole year, I decided for a whole year I was going to really put all my attention to have an OBE, what we called an OBE and lucid dreaming. Okay, I really like it was my mission. I was obsessed about it every day at noon. I would go lay down with an intention for 30 minutes, and I mean like every day. And I had 3 things happen which were amazing, but at a certain point, which kind of scared me, I got a little destabilized where there were times where I had missing time, where
Ooh.
I wasn't quite sure if things were real or not. Like like common things. Like I would be in the grocery store and my mom was with me and she's like, "Oh, I'll be right back. Watch my cart. I have to go to the bathroom." And she comes back. I'm like, did you go to the bathroom? She's like, yeah, I've been gone for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, like I had no clue that 5 minutes had passed. I was just like, what? So I'm like, I better stop. Like, I think this is telling me like, I better stop. Um, but I did have three cool things, and not everybody has like their thing, and for me, I feel like remote viewing's perfect for me because it's something that I do. It's structured, and people that like that, like me, and that likes the science of it, and also like the mystics of it, it's perfect. It's a perfect kind of thing, and I also like to know that I'm doing something to help. And so yeah, but it's very cool. All this stuff is so cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it ties perfectly into this show with comic book radio because all this stuff sounds like it's straight out of a comic book.
We all have our superpowers, right?
Yeah.
I know.
And speaking of lost time, I can't believe that we're at the 52-minute mark already. I don't know where it went.
Because time flies when you're having fun.
So we're going to take a quick little break right here. Could I get you for like another half hour? I want to talk to you about your experience with Art Bell and producing and working with them.
Sure.
All right. So we're going to take a quick little break here, just 2 minutes. You're watching Comic Book Radio. This is episode 223. My guest tonight is Michelle Freed. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere, guys. See you in 2 minutes.
Sekai was always afraid of the dark, a trait unbecoming of a samurai.
I haven't followed the path of Buddha, but tonight I ask for finality. I have persevered from the low to realize my moment, my dream.
But what Sekai lacked in courage, he made up in ambition, skill, and perseverance. To become a lord, how far would he go? What lines would he cross? And where will loyalties die? You must flee. Never.
To become a lord, this is my dream.
All right, welcome back to Comic Book Radio. I'm here with Michelle Freed, who was the producer for Art Bell on Midnight in the Desert and is currently the producer for Jimmy Church on Fade to Black. I'm very interested about this as well. Can you describe to me, especially with Art Bell's show, Midnight in the Desert, how did that come about?
Well, I was going through a divorce and I had to figure out kind of what I'm going to do. And I had been working in the field of remote viewing. I had a lot of friends and things like that. And so I decided to help my friends, pitch them to different shows. And so I reached out to Art Bell and was pitching a friend of mine. And they called me back. The producer called back and he's like, oh yeah, this guy sounds great. Do. And he's like, we'll have someone give you a call back. And I said, okay. And like a month passed and I was just like, oh my gosh, I think I have to really work for this. And I get a call from this lady and she's apologizing because she lost her producer. And you know how we're talking about like a gut feeling? Something in me and it's not like me to do, but something in me just went, hire me. That's why I just said, hire me. And she was totally flabbergasted. She's like, huh? I'm like, well, yeah, hire me. And she's like, oh, and I said, yeah. She goes, okay, well, I'm going to have to test you out. Like, let's see if you can book for next week or whatever. So in 3 days, I booked 2 weeks of guests. And Art Bell told her, you better hire her right now. And so that's how I got the job. I asked for it. That's how I got it.
There you go.
So,
Ask and ye shall receive sometime.
exactly. It
Yeah,
was
if you
perfect.
never ask, you never know.
Yeah, and it was really weird because the lady I was talking to, she was interviewing producers. And that afternoon, she was interviewing somebody, and she kept calling the person Michelle. She didn't know why. It was the wrong name. And she kept calling her Michelle. And we never even met. So she must have been, kind of precogging that I was,
Yeah, your name must have been in the ether.
yeah. Yeah. Isn't that weird? That's
That is
weird.
weird.
Good stuff. It's good stuff.
So for how long were you working on Midnight in the Desert?
So I think it was like 5 or 6 years, I think, something like that. Up until he passed away. And it was great. Like, I feel like I should have my PhD in all things weird at this point. But I learned so much, and it really, how things in life kind of set you up. You don't even understand how they set you up for things to come in the future. And I never thought I would ever have my own business. And this kind of set me up for that, because I just met so many amazing people, and they had a problem. I was really good at connecting people, and it just made sense for me to start my other business, is to just connect people. And I also learned huge lessons because he would tell me how to find cool guests. He would give me a lot of pointers. And when we were doing our sound check, I was thinking of Art, because he was so crazy about sound that
Oh.
I was just sitting here having like PTSD, because
Yeah, I put everybody through the ringer when they come on the show. I try to do as best as I can with the sound. I want everybody to hear what everyone here has to say.
Exactly. And one time, I'll just tell you this like moment. So I would do these sound checks, and back then, again, we didn't have like amazing technology like we had now. I mean, people were using for a microphone and headset, it was like a Logitech, which isn't so bad, but not everybody it could work. He was against cell phones, so it had to be on Skype or a landline. Okay. And so I would spend sometimes with people that were not technically savvy, like hours, just trying to get them to plug in a Logitech. I'm telling you, like, just plug it in, babe. And it was like a nightmare. So I worked my butt off doing these sound checks and making them perfect. And so one night, I don't know what happened, because I did the sound check, and I'm in the car driving down the highway, and I get a phone call. And can you imagine the phone with that voice? Think about, just everybody for a minute, think about Art Bell's voice. And he says, "You blew it, Michelle."
Oh no.
I'm getting goosebumps right now. I was like, what? Oh my God. I had to pull over to the side of the road and just like, what? And he hung up. And then, but the next day he called and apologized.
What did you do?
It wasn't me. I think that there may have been a storm at that night because we did sound checks the day before. We didn't do them right before the show. And so anything could have happened in 24 hours. It could have been perfect on the one night and then crappy by the time the show comes. And he knew that. Like, the next day he just was pissed, because sound is his thing. Like, he does not, he's just anal about that for sure. So yeah, that was my that was great.
you're feeling better. It seems like you've had that on your shoulders for years. You're getting
I
off your
know.
chest now.
I just lost 20 pounds, people. Whew, man. I'm so much better now. I could just cancel the psychologist now. That's
Good.
like, yeah, we're good. I
Save
could
all
save
that
some
time,
money.
all that money.
I'm good. All I needed to do is talk to Pete.
There you go. The
So,
bill's in the mail.
oh, thanks.
Don't
Thank
worry.
you.
So now you're producing for Jimmy Church on Fade to Black. What's that been like?
It's
And
amazing.
I love that show. It's a great show.
He's great. He's just so great, and I love working with him. You know, in the beginning, I was when I first met him, I was very intimidated. You know, with his deep voice. You know, he reminds me of Wolfman Jack. Do you remember Wolfman Jack?
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's actually from Illinois too. Like when he was little, he grew up not that far from me in the Chicagoland area. And so we ended up having a lot in common. We would always run into each other at events and things like that. And then he called me up. He's like, "What do you have going on? You want to produce for me?" And I'm like, "Do I?" I even said that. I went, "Do I?" So yeah, and so it's been great. Like he's just amazing to work with. I just love. He just does a really great job, and it's fun to like just find all these cool guests to be on his show.
That's
So,
fantastic.
it's a
Well,
lot.
if you ever need somebody else, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. That's
If
yeah.
he's interested in talking comics as well as paranormal and cryptids and whatnot, that's my specialty.
For sure. We can talk about that later. Yeah.
But this is great. I'm so glad that you're on here to have this conversation, especially with the remote viewing, and then I'm really interested, especially with this one aspect here. Now, I need you to clear something up for me, or at least help me to understand it. When it comes to the hypnotizing, right? That hypnotic state, is that something that is similar to like a meditative state, like a deep meditative state? Because I've read a lot about it. I've seen a lot about it in terms of other people talking about it. And it seems like a lot of this sort of stuff, remote viewing, hypnotic state, meditative state, the subconscious, the brainwave activity, all that kind of stuff. It seems like it's relatively, if not the exact same sort of thing. And that a lot of that's all within the same realm, the same science, the same space.
Yeah. So you're right. It is. But what changes it is, I kind of look at it like each one of these things has a different intention or frequency. And so you're tapping into whatever your intention is for it. So hypnosis intention is really a lot of times is to help people, or it's more like, that's why we say hypnotherapy and things like that, or implanting a suggestion to help people lose weight or quit smoking or fear of flying, that was our intention of that. So it does tap into where you're using a guided meditation in a way, but it's with an intention of what you want to do. So I've had people that have come to me that felt like they were abducted, and they asked me to regress them because they don't remember what happened. And so that is another intention. Now, of course, you could do that with remote viewing too, but it's also, I think, it's more effective if you're doing it with hypnosis, because what you're doing is bringing the past up to the front and then making them kind of experience it's really good for their memory. And plus, remote viewing, the intention is that they don't know what the target is, so you would have to approach it a little differently. But all these things do start with really good meditation skills, like everything, psychic people, all that stuff. It's all about having very good skills in meditation. The better your meditation is, your skills, the better you are at tapping into your subconscious and getting the information that you need. And even in psychic readings, where people reading tarot cards and all these tools that they use, the left brain is always an issue, because you can have someone give you a reading and they're coming from their life experiences and they're telling you based on only what they know. And so they have to be careful to kind of separate out that left brain and just tune in to their right brain so that they're not drawing conclusions or anything like that. So,
So kind of like a Yoda thing. You have to unlearn what you have learned.
exactly. That's true. And in fact, with my class in the first session, that's what I tell everyone. I tell you all, like, just set aside everything you know and give this a chance, because if you don't like remote viewing or you do like remote viewing, there will be something in here that you can apply to whatever you're already doing, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel if something's working for people. Like, there was this lady, oh gosh, I don't remember her name. She's got to be, I don't even know if she's still with us. She was a psychic back in the 70s and 80s, and she actually was hired by the FBI and she would go in and teach them about intuition, because you think about it, the FBI does need to use some intuition to figure out cases and stuff like that. So she would go in as a psychic and go and teach them some things. And so she was like world known and very popular, and she came to me and she's like, "Can you teach me remote viewing?" So I'm like, "Sure." And so I think I got to the second class and I thought, this is so dumb. She is so good at what she's doing. Like, why do I have to reinvent the world, the wheel for her? So what she did like and what she did take is that in remote viewing, we sketch a lot. And sketching is really important because that's an automatic connection to your subconscious. That is a really amazing way to bypass your left brain, is by automatic writing. So she now, or I don't know if she's still alive, but when we were done, she was incorporating sketches while she would do her psychic readings. She would just sit and sketch at the same time. And she said that that really helped her. So if you can take something from remote viewing and apply it, hey, that's great.
It's interesting that you say that and bring that up too, because on this show, I do a lot of different shows that have to deal with being creative, overcoming creative blocks, that kind of stuff. And one of the biggest things I harp on in terms of people overcoming like writer's block, or when they get intimidated by the empty page or whatever, is just write whatever's coming to your mind. Just write anything down, whether you're typing it, you're writing it down, whatever it is. Keep writing it down, whatever you're feeling, whatever is going through. It doesn't have to even be about the story or the character or whatever it is you want to do. Or if you're in a creative block in terms of you're getting intimidated by how do I figure out this character, this scene, this whatever, just draw, just start sketching, make marks on the page. And the whole purpose of that is to tap into that subconscious space.
Exactly.
And unlock your creativity. So it's funny how, it's the same. I find that I've had a lot of conversations on this show, 223 episodes. I've had a lot of conversations with people, and I find that we are all pretty much talking about the same sort of things. We might have different words for it. We might have different ways to express it, but we're all doing the same things. We're all following the same techniques, and we're all finding these same things work for us.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's fascinating to me.
It is. And it's also semantics. If you go to somebody in corporate America, when the military was looking, or the government was looking for remote viewers for their project, they would look for successful businessmen that had multi-millionaire, million-dollar businesses. And the reason they did is because it takes intuition to make those decisions. And so they would narrow it down that way, and they would approach those people but if you call them psychic, or if you said anything like that, they'd be like, I'm not psychic. What are you? I'm in corporate America, like, what are you talking about? But that's what they're doing. You have to just use a vocabulary that's going to resonate with them.
Yeah. It's funny how that works. Now there's a couple questions here in the chat. Comics for Life always has such great questions. He's got 3. Says, has there been anything that has stumped you when working on any cases?
Stumped me?
Yeah. Anything that you just maybe couldn't figure out? Like, what does that mean?
There are things, I guess, what comes to mind, and it's not really stumped, but it's something that comes up and something we have to deal with. And when we work with detectives on missing person cases, sometimes the problem is that the detectives who have been in the business for many, many years, they come in with an idea of who the bad guy is, who's the suspects. And then we will give them a session, which can be turning their case completely upside down. And we're actually working on one right now where it's a cold case that's like 40 something years old. The detective is ready to retire, and he wanted the remote viewers, his last ditch effort before he retires. And so we have 4 viewers, and none of us knew what the case was or anything. I actually viewed on it too. And all of us were pointing to the same person, which isn't the one he thinks did it. And so he's so stumped is really because we don't know what to do, because our sessions are so, first of all, not knowing what the details or anything about this, and we're all pointing and describing the other person. It's like, that's weird. It's like, it's so weird that you have to pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. And so he doesn't want to change. He's been doing this for 40 something years, thinking it's this one person. And then we're coming in and telling him, you need to kind of open up the aperture, because it might not be that person you thought it was for all these years. So that's kind of the way I can think of as stumped. Other fascinating, I don't know, stumped, fascinating, like, oh wow, those mind-blowing moments where we get information. Are you familiar with the Baltic Sea anomaly? Do you know what that is?
Refresh my memory.
It's a satellite was able to see something in the Baltic Sea way, I think it's very, very deep. And they found something that in the photos from the satellite looks like a UFO. And it's really, I think there were these 2 guys that rented underwater, sea.
Like a ship that had crashed into the Baltic Sea?
So that's the question. So in my class, when I do my class, I can say this now because no one's going to know when I put it in the class, is we do the Baltic Sea, and all I ask them, they don't know, is it man-made or natural? Because is it, rocks in that form under, which doesn't make sense, because if you look it up on YouTube, you'll see it looks like a UFO, and it's ginormous. It's humongous. And most of my people, when they do that session, man-made. It always comes back man-made. Wow. With connections to Atlantis.
Oh, what? Okay.
So that would be,
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Not stumped, but like, whoa,
Yeah. Let's see, another question from Comics for Life. Have you ever been asked or tried to remote view to other planets like Mars? There have been reported cases of remote viewers doing so.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually did a session on Mars, and then Joe McMoneagle has a very famous one that he did way before we got photos of Mars. And his sketches on his session match up to the photos that came later. And then Ingo Swann, who's one of our forefathers of remote viewing,
Oh yeah.
He claimed that there were rings around Jupiter, and people thought he was crazy. And guess what? Just watch how the universe works, and you'll see there are rings around Jupiter. So, yeah, we do that all the time. My target was Mars. If there were if there were life forms at any time on Mars, and I actually, yes, I had these things, these beings or something that were there that came to Earth because of some apocalyptic thing or something like that. So yeah, we do that, and that's like a good target that I give my students for practice. So it's a lot of fun to do. Or the moon. Are there alien bases on the moon?
How does that come up?
What
are the findings there?
So a very good friend of mine, he, oh my gosh, he did this target on the moon, and he said he was blocked. He was getting all this information, and then all of a sudden everything went black, and he felt this force kind of pushing him, and he like kind of snapped out of the session, and he felt like there was some kind of protection,
lunar security,
something like that. But I don't think I got anything on the moon in my session, but it's hard to know. But he got that. And then Tom DeLonge, right? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
So he hired us to do some remote viewing also.
Okay.
So when they gave us that project, of course, they didn't tell us it was Tom DeLonge, because then we would automatically get aliens. And so we were completely blind to Tom DeLonge and the target. And I got weird these like subjects that were lined up, and they were all holding this blue sphere of some sort. And so everyone got like all this weird stuff. We were supposed to be looking at some kind of an event, the before the event, and then after the event. And we were all getting things of some dynamic event happening. And then there was chaos after the event. And something like we're all getting information about like a birth. Like some people had like a birth in their session, or a pregnant woman or something. It was weird. And then
when was this? What year?
That was 2019, I think. I have to double check. Okay. But it might be 2019. And so he never got back to us. He paid us, but he never got back to us with the feedback. So none of us really know what we were remote viewing. And every once in a while, I'll send him an email. Hey, dude, we want our feedback. We want to know, what were we looking at? So
I got thoughts about Tom DeLonge, but I'll keep them to myself.
Oh, you're being a good boy.
A bit about that trust your gut thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. That's so true. There's some people in this community where you really have to have your feelers.
Yeah.
There's yeah.
But Comics for Life, another good question here says, have you been asked to consult for TV shows or movies in regard to your experience and expertise in remote viewing?
Not to consult, but there are some people that want to make a TV show. And so I guess we filmed a what's it called? A
pilot?
Yeah, like a pilot. And so they like it. We have like 3 people interested, but it's about the funding, getting all the money for it. So we have to sit and wait for that. That actually that's been going on for before the pandemic, and then when everyone went on strike and all that stuff, it put everything behind. But I was right now I'm did you see uh, Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot?
Yeah.
That
Yep.
film? So I'm one of the producers of that film, and I suggest everyone to watch it. It's a sequel. The first one's called Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, and the second one is Paranormal Bigfoot. It really, and they're going to come up with a third one. And they're going to also be making one with Ron Moorhead.
Oh, okay, great.
So he's one of my clients too. So he's getting up there. So I hope they get going on making that film too, because he did where the Sierra Sounds,
Yeah,
where
he's got
he
some
recorded.
interesting recordings.
Yeah, and they were not able to debunk any of that. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's chilling.
It is.
I don't know if anybody in the chat has listened to those, but yeah, Ron Moorhead with the recordings that he got, that just I don't know what the hell they are, and it seems like a lot of other people don't know what the hell they are either. But they're not fake, and they're not. It's so hard to describe.
Yeah, they have this guy who worked for the military, and his specialty was these sounds. And he said there's no way a human can make these sounds. And it almost sounds like they're talking, like
Yeah,
talking or chattering to each other. And it's creepy. It really is. So,
yeah. Nothing human, nothing animal, but it does sound like that kind of
like
patterning
they're
of
talking or something.
talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what did you think in Paranormal, that footage that they got with the cloaking? Did that like knock your socks off?
Yeah, that was really strange. It reminded me kind of the Predator.
Right. That's right. So we showed that footage to the Skinwalker Ranch guys, and they were freaked out too.
Yeah, it seems like there's some kind of frequency, some kind of something that's like an EMF thing, that's altering patterns of light or whatever. And I mean, I've talked to Simeon Hine on this show before too, and he's had a lot of research about that kind of stuff, and it seems like that sort of thing goes hand in hand with Bigfoot sightings, and it's also some kind of explanation for why they seem to kind of be there and then not there at all.
Right. Yeah, he's working on some stuff now. You're going to have him come back to not that soon, because he's compiling more interviews that he got from experiencers.
Oh, okay. That'd be great. Yeah, it was. I had a great time talking to him. I think it was like last October. Be great to have him come back again in the fall.
Well, you and your wife should take my class along with your followers. I think you should learn some remote viewing.
I'm a little frightened as to what I might find. I think I might be one of those people that ends up finding something they shouldn't find, and then I end up in a bad spot.
No. You're letting your mind get away from you. You're not going to see what you're not ready to see.
I'll be like, I think I stumbled upon a secret government base.
They're not going to let you see anything. That's for sure.
Oh boy. Oh yeah. Well, it's interesting. The whole thing is very interesting. And thank you so much for spending some time tonight talking about that. And I hope everybody in the chat, hope you guys enjoyed the show and the conversation as well.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. Those are good.
Yeah, great questions in the chat. Thank you guys so much. And Michelle, one thing before we do go and before we wrap things up, you were in the documentary Third Eye Spies.
Yeah,
and I thought that was a great documentary about this subject. How did that come to be?
Well, I'm friends with Russell Targ and the filmmaker. All those people, they're the ones that taught me. So so they just wanted somebody that's moving into the future of remote viewing. So, you know, that's kind of with all our experiments and research, we want to just kind of move this into the future and kind of, you know, the military we're so grateful for and that, all that, but we really need to kind of, you know, break the ceiling of this and really kind of let this go mainstream.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be great. We could all tap into that. That'd be fantastic. I think if we could all tap into that kind of state of consciousness too, I don't know. I think we might be tapping into something that the ancient civilizations used to tap into, then we can't figure out half the stuff they did.
Yeah.
And I think if we could get to that state of consciousness again, I think maybe we could start figuring out how they did it and why they did it.
I mean, they didn't have technology all day, every day. You
Yeah.
know, all they did was think
They were
and
so
meditate
connected.
and explore in their mind. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Rachel wants to tell you that your hair is divine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're making me blush.
And thanks, Comics for Life says another great show, very interesting. I agree. Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being on here. And before you go, anywhere you want to direct anybody to, anywhere you want to tell them to go to after the show?
Oh yeah, check out my website, butterflyeffectscenter.com, and all my remote viewing and hypnosis stuff is there. And then if anyone you know, needs my other business, LITM Media, where we help people that have written books and get them booked on other radio shows like yours, and produce podcasts if you want to start your own podcast. We do social media marketing and all that stuff. That's litmmedia.com.
All right, fantastic. Everybody, thank you guys so much for being with us here tonight. This was a great conversation. And Michelle, thank you so much as well. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, take it easy. Have a wonderful night and an even better tomorrow. I'll see you guys soon. All the best to you.